off on the Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off on the Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been...
Welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab.
Hello and welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab. My name is Adrian Hernandez. I am here today with Jackie K and Brennan Boat of MileHighHockey.com. Thank you folks so very much for tuning into today's broadcast. We are going to talk a little bit about everything to include the Four Nations tournament, but also we're going to get into the Colorado Avalanche returning to the ice in the practice form and see what we saw there. Our own Brennan was at the arena, or I guess on the ice, I guess, near the ice today at Family Sports. So we'll get into that. And of course, we will preview Thursday's action between USA and Canada. We just unplugged the microphone mid-show. That's how we're doing this morning or this afternoon. And we think it's the morning. Oh, my goodness. So thank you, folks, for tuning in. Please head on over to MileHighHockey.com. We have all of our written material over there. There's some by yours truly, as well as Jackie K and Brendan. We do previews, recaps, and opinion pieces galore. I actually just did an opinion piece about Cale Makar and Nathan MacKinnon making the most of this opportunity in the Four Nations tournament. And I also called a few shots, which we will get into today at the end of the show when we do our bold predictions. So, Jackie, Brennan, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. Let's really quickly touch on what's happened so far in the Four Nations, because the last time we spoke, it was on the eve of Canada versus Finland, or excuse me, Canada versus Sweden. And we were kind of making some, I guess, reads there and things have changed quite considerably, in my opinion, at least since then. So, Jackie, I'm going to start with you. The build-up to this tournament, at least from some of us, I think, including you, was a little bit whatever. You weren't really that interested in it. I'm curious how you feel now after Team USA and Team Canada kind of blew the lid off of the sports world with their first 9 seconds, there being 3 fights. Are you more intrigued now than you initially expected?
Oh, I think you're always a little bit more into it once you watch the games, and you're kind of like, you're watching it unfold, you're seeing it, you see what's invested. So I mean, I wasn't one of those that was like, oh, who cares about this? It's just, I don't know, like just the makeups of the teams wasn't anything really like earth shattering, I guess. I mean, it's cool to see MacKinnon play with Crosby and McDavid, and you know, it's been a long time coming, but like I said, once you get into it, it's more fun, and you see what these teams are, and you kind of, I don't know who to root for at this point. I'm in the final. I don't know. I'm not really rooting for anyone nor against anyone. I think there's reasons to cheer either way.
Totally.
As far as the fights, I'm not big into stage fights. I don't like, I understand sports is still an entertainment business, and I understand like a lot of people latched on to that and will find that memorable. I don't find stage fights that exciting. Like, to me, that's the antithesis of passion and emotion.
Gotcha.
is when it's planned. I think if anything, that third fight was a little bit more organic, the Miller-Parayko one. And I think that one was
on the matchup,
the most spirited of the three.
Yeah.
And you could tell that one was a little bit more organic. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. Like I said, I get that it's entertainment business. I get that's something that's going to grab more casual fans. But that's not what hockey's about. Like, Like if you want that, there's the ECHL. Like they don't even do that in the AHL anymore. So it's not quite matches the caliber of the talent and what they're trying to accomplish. I don't think you need to show people like, hey, this is a big deal. We're emotional. We care about this. Like you show that by your actual play. But
Sure.
I mean, I get that they wanted to be like, this ain't no all-star game. So, like I said, I'm not hating on it entirely, but I just wasn't like, oh boy,
Yeah. Well,
staged fights.
Yeah. I think the part of the whole staged fight that adheres to maybe the folks who don't typically watch hockey is the geopolitical part of this whole thing that people are kind of like touch and go on, which I understand. I don't want to get down that rabbit hole because this isn't a political pod, but there's obviously some tension between the two countries, and it was kind of played up in terms of those first 9 seconds being a little bit in retribution to the booing of the American national anthem. And I don't know if that really is it. I think it has a little bit more to do with what you talked about, which is kind of like setting the precedent in terms of it being a legit game, and the Americans saying like, hey, we're here to fight, not necessarily literally, but also literally, like this is going to be a real game. And that's kind of like what I was keying towards with this conversation is kind of like, I'm noticing that sure, the fights got some of the fringe audience, I guess, to buy in. But those who've been watching hockey, it really was the hockey after that, at least for me, that made the fights important. Because if the fights happen and then it's a blowout one side or the other, it doesn't matter. But it was the fights and then just some really, really good hockey. And Brendan, I want to get your take on this. How'd you feel about those fights in the first 9 seconds? And what do you think of the Sweden and Finland teams? They didn't obviously compete to the level where they're in the final, but there was some flu things going around Sweden and stuff like that. What were your thoughts?
Well, with the flu thing, I heard that it kind of ravaged Sweden. So we didn't see the best of Sweden that we could have. And I feel like Sweden didn't have as good of a team as we all thought that they were going to. So Sweden's not, top tier. Well, they're top tier, but
They're always boring. No.
yeah, it was a boring game. But I mean, I only got to watch a few minutes, unfortunately. But and then
well, then you saw McKinnon's goal.
No, I didn't.
You didn't? Okay.
I didn't see that game.
You didn't see the first few minutes then? Okay.
No, because I didn't watch any games on the 17th because it was my wife's birthday. So
well, happy belated birthday to your wife. That's awesome.
Yeah, because you don't turn on hockey when it's your wife's birthday.
True. Well, the funny story I have to follow that up is my wife and I went to Las Vegas a few years ago, and it was during the 2022 Cup run, and it was Game 5 of the second round against St. Louis when the Avs looked like they were going to win that game. And when I was in the restaurant, my wife, as we walked in, she said, I better not see you on your phone during this dinner. And I was like, I get it. Little did she know the seater, or the person who got us in our chairs that day for dinner, put me on the side where I could perfectly see the television at the bar, which was broadcasting the Colorado Avalanche game. So then it turned into, you better not be looking past me the entire dinner.
Yeah.
It was difficult, and I get that. So kudos to you for not disobeying.
Well,
it's nice that it was on. I was at a restaurant on Monday, and ESPN had, I think, simulated golf was on the TV
Tuesday night golf league.
instead of the Four Nations. So it's disappointing.
Yeah, and so plus it's a break, so I'm trying to take advantage of the fact that I'm being able to actually, I'm not running around from one rink to the other, and
well, let's get back to the fights and stuff like that. Do you think we'll see any fights come tomorrow?
Definitely.
Yeah. You think Canada?
I think Matt Tkachuk's gonna throw some fist a little bit early to try and get the crowd into it, since it's in Boston.
Yeah. Well, Jackie, you say you don't like staged fights. It feels like there's about to be one between the defender that wanted number 8, Drew Doughty, and the Kachuk, one of the Kachuk brothers, as it sounds, because Drew Doughty says, "I'll do whatever I need to do," yada yada. I'm with you though, Jackie. Like the staged fighting thing is it's. I think I didn't expect what happened in the initial matchup. I did not see 3 fights in 9 seconds. I mean, I saw competitive hockey. I saw maybe some a fight, but I didn't see it going down the way it did. And so now I'm like, I don't know what to expect. Tomorrow's going to be a fun time for hockey fans in general. But Jackie, I'm curious of what you thought about Finland, because going in, you were pretty high on them. I was too. I still think that they're a good squad. I just think maybe some decision making that happened along the way roster wise was a little odd, in particular in the net. Obviously, it's easy for me to say, hindsight's 2020, but for me, I feel like if Saros starts in the net against Team Canada, that might be a different outcome. You?
I don't think so. Not so much.
Okay.
First of all, Saros is not having a good season. I think he's a decent part of why Nashville is where they are in the standings. So Lankinen or whoever they used, I think he's playing a little bit better. And he was a net when they won against Sweden. So I watched that game. I thought that game was fairly interesting. And what Finland's going to take away from this tournament is they beat Sweden in their head-to-head matchup.
Yeah.
And that's very important to them. I don't think it would have mattered against Canada. I do think Canada just has the better firepower.
Totally.
And Finland's big downfall was just they lost all their defense.
Before the
tournament, they at the NHL level they don't have quite as much depth to begin with, and so I think that hurt them. But like I said, for me, I don't see their tournament as a complete failure, because other than winning the trophy and winning it all, they won the one that mattered.
Yeah.
So they're gonna keep that with them until the next head-to-head matchup in the future.
Totally. And I think the same is true for USA and Canada, although like the winner of that will win the tournament. And I think that was kind of a foregone conclusion potentially going in. But I think what's interesting about this whole tournament is, and I did an article about the 2026 Winter Olympics that are going to come up this time next year. And what I find interesting is kind of a twofold thing. And we'll just get right into this conversation because I do want to move on to the Avs returning to practice. But how do you think a couple of factors will influence, one, player decisions on playing internationally, and two, general managers and owners pitting themselves against players playing internationally now that we've seen injuries, but also now that we see how these international games have the potential to really launch someone into hockey stardom? I'll start with you, Brennan. What do you think?
Well, I think some players are going to, most players are going to be like, yeah, absolutely, I'll play. But seeing what happened to Shea Theodore, it's he played one, not even a full game, and he's out week to week.
Yeah.
And then you have Charlie McAvoy, who is he played injured through the Canada game, and
then got cross-checked against Finland into the net. Rough.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a meaningless game.
Yeah.
So, technically, McAvoy didn't even need to play in the Finland game. So, and then now he's fighting an injury, or one, an injury, and two, an infection.
Yeah, scary stuff. He was treated by U.S. doctors and then returned home and then was treated again because he was experiencing other issues and pain. And yeah, they found an infection and he had to undergo a debridement procedure, which that's a lot. Like you say, for what is it? Basically for him, it was 2 international games. Yeah. 2.5 international games.
And a funny thing is I always think back to surgeries and infections. I always think back to Mickey Mantle. I know it has, God, that was forever ago, and things like that. But Mickey Mantle got, I believe he got hip surgery, and then he ended up getting an infection, and then that wouldn't go away.
Yeah.
And after that, like, he played through the infection, and then that season he just was not the same.
Totally. It's a dangerous thing, infections. In fact, my wife is a nurse, so whenever anything happens, she's all about, we'll make sure it doesn't get infected, yada yada yada. And
Yeah.
an internal injury like that, obviously you have operations happen that get you open, and that's when, you know, the sterile part of the whole procedure comes into question when someone gets an infection. So it's just like such a weird thing, because on one side of the coin, Jackie, this has been amazing to watch international hockey with the likes of McKinnon and Crosby. And heck, for us Avs fans, Mikko and Lehkonen representing Team Finland. It's been fun to watch. But how do you manage the risk versus the reward? And who really holds the power in this? Is it an NHLPA collective bargaining thing? Or is it really just manager or general managers and owners that can kind of make the call with this?
It's usually collaborative, so I don't know if we've seen a true battle where one side says absolutely not and the other side says I'm going. I don't know that a team or an organization has the final say so, because the ability for them to go is something they collectively bargain.
Exactly,
So I can't really say. I don't know who has the absolute final word. If the fact that it's collectively bargained for them to go, I think it might be the player's discretion at the end of the day. I mean, anything's a risk. Practice is a risk. So I don't get the whole like, oh, if he hadn't gone, the injury would have happened. And, you know, you just never know. You never know what's going to happen.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, getting an injury right now isn't really the worst part, because you've got trade deadline, LTIR.
Good point.
I'll be surprised if Theodore doesn't play in the playoffs. So, I mean, you never know what the injury is. Some can be longer, but even for the Avs, if somebody important had suffered an injury, like I said, they probably would be back. So I don't know. You just have to take it. I think it's important to the players, their careers, their legacy. International play does factor into the Hall of Fame. You just don't want to lose an entire generation of best on best play. How they set it out, they want to do every other year with World Cup and Olympics, and that's going to be something set. I think is a good thing.
Me too. I'm with you. I don't get the whole like, oh, well, it's risky. Well, so is playing in game 78 for the San Jose Sharks, and you have no chance in playing in the playoffs, but you still got to show up and do your job. And just like in the NHL and these international tournaments, they were paid to appear. This wasn't like a volunteer thing. There was an appearance payment and there's a prize pool. So it's about business still for me. And like, there's an inherent risk. I mean, to getting out of bed. So we've seen guys get injured walking down the stairs. So it's like you kind of just have to live your life. And a part of that, the big part of that you touched on that I agree with, is the legacy thing. Crosby has a big advantage, in my opinion, on the world scale and in terms of the GOAT argument, specifically because of the golden goal in 2010 and what that meant to Canada, the largest hockey market in the world. And now, kind of why I wrote my article, we see that McKinnon, Makar, McDavid, these guys have an opportunity to cement themselves into the annals of hockey lore. And that's important for, as you mentioned, Hall of Fame resumes, but even in the here and now. Like if Nathan McKinnon does well, continues to do well, and, you know, has a staple moment in this final, it'll go, whether or not anyone says any otherwise, it's going to go a long way towards him earning a back-to-back MVP. The same,
like everyone remembers his team, North America, his goal against Lundqvist.
Mm-hmm. And I brought that up before the Four Nations as kind of like the only moment I have as a fan of international hockey, with having so few true best on best styles of international hockey. So I think, if anything, that this Four Nations tournament has kind of shown that if you're going to do this international thing, it's got to be best on best, because that's really the best product you can bring to the table. And otherwise, it's kind of not worth it, in my opinion. Now,
well, if you think about it, though, it's still not best on best.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you didn't have the Germans there.
Leon
and the
Draisaitl.
Germans have been building up their program for like the last decade.
Sure.
None of the Russians were there.
Right. Which
Which
Russia
I
might
kn-
not even be at the Olympics.
Yeah,
So
well, no, they'll be under the Olympic flag.
No, they won't.
ROC.
They're
No,
not
yeah,
I don't
allowed
think they will because
at all.
IIHF already said they're not even going to be in their 25.
No, they're not allowed at all. Like
like not even under the Olympic
No.
flag. Okay,
I don't
No.
well,
think so. I don't think
and
so.
I think the same thing's going to be for Belarus too. But and then like you don't have
Check.
how many other nations represented. So I'm split on whether you can call it best on best.
Sure, I think you're totally onto something. I think the Olympics will be better in terms of that, but I do think Russia will still be out, and so there will still be a little bit of an asterisk. But I get that, like, if you give Russia the hockey tournament, that's really all they want. So,
I
in
mean, I'd like to see
particular
Russia
their
too,
leader.
but they're not going to wait. Like
Yeah.
you know, the best on best it truly is what people want to see: Crosby, McKinnon, McDavid playing together,
Yeah,
and yeah, for certain Russia would be up there in the tops, but you just don't know if that's going to happen. You don't know if that's going to happen at all in this generation. So, I mean, I still think you can call it best on best, but I think it is a degraded quality. We've seen that in the World Juniors as well. It's been a shame to not have those Russian players in the World Juniors. So it is still felt for sure.
And then next Olympics, has Makar been cleared?
Yes,
Yes.
that I actually read something specifically that said that they brought in a third party investigator to clear him. So just he in particular is cleared to be able to compete for anything.
Okay, because I know he'd been cleared for the this tourney, but last I knew, and I may have missed it, he hadn't been cleared for IIHF anything.
and that's the Carter Hart situation. Yeah.
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
Carter
Yeah.
Hart, Nolan. No, it's Cal Foot and
Yeah, gotcha.
all
Okay.
them.
So, well, it's good to know that they took the right process in getting a third party with that, because people would just be like, well, if you guys did it yourself, of course you cleared Cale Makar. But no, the third party thing is a big deal, I think, in terms of that whole situation. So good for them for going that route, and good for Cale for not being involved as far as that third party has cleared up. So the one last thing I wanted to touch on was a part of the injury conversation. It's a two-parter. Jackie, I'll start with you. Do you think guys will opt out of these international tournaments based on their injury woes going forward? And if so, will that present opportunity for some younger guys who potentially wouldn't get a look, say in like the Worlds rather than the Olympics, or the Four Nations rather than the Olympics? How do you feel about that?
Well, I think the player will always have that discretion. Like, I never know how to say his name live, Pietrangelo.
Oh yeah,
You know,
Pietrangelo,
maybe
yeah.
he kind of was like, you never know. There's such a gray area. All these guys are dealing with something. It depends how big of a deal you want to make it. I think that's always up to them, that they're going to use their judgment. I think for the majority, they want to do this. Like we've talked about, it's important to them. I think most will play through something, or but there's always going to be a range. Like Quinn Hughes was very much up in the air. I think he just wasn't close enough to be ready to play. I think it's important to kind of touch on what we've seen about flying guys in. I think this is the part that makes it a bit ridiculous to me. It's just the whole like,
someone's hurt, bring in Quinn Hughes, right?
Right. And so every single hilarious person on social media yesterday was like, oh, well, someone's going to get sick, of course. Yeah. Someone's going to have a mystery illness. Someone's going to fall down the stairs. Everyone's waiting for it. Everyone's waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I think that has sort of cheapened it, where it's like nobody knows what the roster is, what the rules are. Now USA brought in 4 extras just to be on call. I mean, that's the part that I think makes it look a little junior. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I
like,
get you.
like we don't know what we're doing. Like, why not just have a bigger roster? Like,
From the rip,
moving
yeah,
forward for the World Cup, take 8 defensemen. Like,
totally.
why do we need to get through into this? Well, who can fly there? But then they can't really do anything, and they have to watch from the hallway. I mean,
Did you
to
see? Yeah, we
me,
saw that with Kale's
Yeah,
replacement,
with
right?
Hardy.
and it wasn't just an illness. Like, they admitted later on he's dealing with an injury. Like, the whole thing is just
Silly.
a joke. And then, like, the Hughes thing, like, he doesn't want to fly there just to be like an ornament. He doesn't want to
Mhm.
fly from Vancouver to Boston just
And
to
he
sit there and
apparently-
be.
He didn't
be-
pass medical clearance either, so that's
Well,
also-
that's probably the
Yeah.
final. You know what I mean? They probably
Yeah.
kind of gave him an excuse, but he's still on the bubble
point.
too.
Mhm.
But you could tell that he was resistant. Like, I'm not going to fly from Vancouver to Boston and then from Boston to Vegas just to be like not an ornament and not play. And
Mhm.
I don't know. To me, this whole thing is just a farce. Like, just have a bigger roster.
Agreed.
And my solution to that, if the other nations would say, we don't have the depth, and Canada's 8D is it a different league than our 8D? I would say maybe you have to have younger players as your, if we
Replacements.
expand it and say take 8D, take an extra forward, make sure
So-
they have to be younger, because I think that's going to be the shame. They've already said they do not want to do the North America thing for the World Cup, which I really don't get why, because you're going to have 20 really good players just sitting at home.
Mhm.
And how fun that was, and to see a whole team of young players and they beat teams. And
Yeah.
people will say, oh, that because that was just Matthews and McDavid and McKinnon and they don't have that generation anymore. I think that's cheap to say that.
Yeah,
Like,
you don't know because you're not letting them play.
yeah. Yeah, so that's my answer about the younger players. The World Championships is always where they want younger players to show up
Sure.
and get on the list and things like that, which is okay, but we'll always see that these men's teams skew older,
Totally.
and that's just the way it's going to be.
Yep, that makes sense. Brandon, I saw you shake your head when I asked if you would see players opting out. Tell me why do you not agree with that?
No, I don't think players will opt out, because you have players like Ovechkin, who's literally said, if Russia's allowed to play, I'm going to, and then, the NHL players aren't allowed to play, that I'm literally going to go AWOL to play for Russia.
Yeah. Which
I think that was, a few Olympics ago,
yeah, exactly.
but I remember him saying, he's like, I will leave
Mhm.
the Capitals in order to play for Russia and represent my country over my team.
Yeah.
And which, I mean, in Ovi's case, you can't blame him. His parents are both Olympians and he wants to get his medal too. But and then you've got players like McKinnon, who's never been on a team other than a world team, and he's looking for that gold medal himself. He wants to be able to represent Canada and get his gold medal and win it. And this is his chance for something like the Four Nations. Yeah, it's not the World Championship, it's not the Olympics, but it's something that he can wear the Canadian flag for.
Totally.
As in terms of expanding the roster, I believe that if the NHLPA wants to give players a break, pull a couple guys from the AHL.
Oh, here we go. You can still favor the old Jackie when you do that.
Yeah, so like I may be biased here, but like for the US, pull Jacob McDonald
Yeah.
and have him be a black ace for the US. He's the top defenseman in the AHL. He's one of the top defensemen, leads the league in goals scored, is third in points. Have him sit there for a week and practice with the US.
Mhm.
It's not only going to be beneficial for him, but it's also going to, they'll have an extra D man just in case.
Yeah.
I think a real NHL player would you could find someone that'd be willing to be a black ace.
Well, yeah, it's just like if the NHL CBA is like, oh, he can't come or something like
Yeah.
that. Well,
Like
then
only
fine,
X
we'll
amount of
throw a
NHL
freaking AHL player or something like that. These guys, the AHL teams are used to playing without the guys.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the Four Nations, the Avalanche or the Eagles may be playing without McDonald and Amont anyways.
Yeah. Totally. That's a good point. That last part is actually a good point. But I think I agree with Jackie. Like they'll probably rather find a pro, but I get your point when you're saying
Well,
like well,
the
if they
AHL are
venture
pros,
out-
dude.
I know, but I mean, and you know what I mean. An
Yeah,
NHL,
I mean,
Yeah.
Don't
I mean, we're
downgrade
talking about
the
the best
AHL.
of the best.
I'm gonna downgrade it in comparison to the NHL because that's what it is a downgrade from the NHL. But I agree with you, they're plenty capable players. My point is just that if they're allowed to pick an NHLer to fill that role, they're gonna do that first.
Well, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just it is if they don't want to bring NHLers and say,
Right.
okay, go on vacation, rest up, bring an AHLer on, and just have them practice with the team and
Totally.
be in the background instead of this BS of having, oh, is Quinn Hughes going to be, cleared in time, and is he going to have to fly from Vancouver to Boston to Vegas, and then it just
they got to solve that because to me, it just makes it look like they don't know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. And then like now they're looking at Tage Thompson because Brady Tkachuk can't play, and they're like, oh well, Tage Thompson was one of the last cuts. Well, first off, he shouldn't have been a cut in my opinion, and then. And they're like, well, he's also close because he's in Buffalo. It's like that shouldn't have mattered.
Mm-hmm.
He should have been with the team to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, this is the NHL's event. If we're talking about the Olympics, then you have other rules there. You have the Olympic rules, but this is their event, so you can make whatever rule you want.
Yeah,
it's a good point. Yeah. That's a really good point.
It's just the logistics of this is just complete foobar, and they're showing that it's like, okay, this is obviously the first time we're doing this, and we didn't think this many injuries were going to happen.
Totally.
So we're not thinking of the logistics here.
We were hoping they wouldn't happen because now we're having this conversation right now, and so is probably every hockey podcast that's dedicated to a team, specifically like the Boston Bruins or the Vegas Golden Knights. They're having a conversation today or in this week where it's like, well, that wasn't worth it in the long run for us. I mean, no matter the outcome, that's what people don't get is if you're and I hate to say this out loud, I'm going to knock on wood before I do it. But if something happens to Cale Makar or Nathan MacKinnon tomorrow night, we're not going to give a rat's rip who won the game.
Yeah.
So
I still say, depending on LTIR and when they come back, it might not be the worst.
So you might see it as a Vegas opportunity style, like, oh yeah, they got hurt in the Four Nations.
I mean, I'm not gonna say like, oh yay, they got hurt, but I just don't think it's like devastation. Gotcha. Like, oh my god, they just threw the season away to play one stupid game that doesn't even count for the NHL. I wouldn't feel that way. I mean, if it was devastation is something career ending, and knock on wood, obviously let's not even go down that road, but usually these injuries are a few weeks, you come back, life moves on. I just don't think it's like devastation.
That's fair. I think that's a fair assessment. Well, before we move on, I'll do a quick little preview. It'll be Team USA versus Team Canada, 6:00 Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We will get round 2 of Canada versus America, and what I really like about this setup is that no matter what, in 2026 the Olympic tournament is going to be pretty lit. It'll either be America winning tomorrow and pouring salt on the wound, and Canada will, as I put in my article, their rage will be burning with the fire of 1,000 suns until 2026. And then if America loses, the Team USA will look at the Olympics as kind of a rubber match, and that will be cool in and of itself. So international hockey, I feel like, is totally back. And in terms of best on best, with a little asterisk for Russia, I think that's back too. So that's really exciting. And before we move on, I do want to get everyone's prediction. Final score, who wins? Jackie, you go first.
Well, I will always say you have to be wary of the rematch. And in a rematch, I always look for the opposite result. So
Yep.
this does not favor the US that they won just several days ago. I will put it that way. So I think Canada's going to win. I'll say 4-2, probably with like an empty net goal. So it'll be close, be like a 3-2 game, and then maybe they'll get an empty net goal. So that's kind of what I expect. I think this has set up for Canada to win.
I agree with that. Brennan, your take, final score.
Canada, I'm going to agree with Jackie 3-2 or 4-2. You're going to get Angry Nate coming out, playoff Nate. You're going to get playoff McDavid coming out, so he'll probably go into non-existence. And
Shots fired.
to all the Oilers fans, if there are any watching.
Well, he's not playing against Kale, so he'll be okay.
Yeah, true. Or Taze.
Yeah.
And then Kale's going to be playing this game. So, because they said Kale's going to play no matter what. It's just my concern is like you guys have both said, is this going to lead to something longer for Kale? Because he was fighting the flu bug, he's fighting an injury, and they've even said during a presser that he's trying to think about the long term. So,
yeah, well, don't forget too, we were talking about Kale being injured going into camp, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
he's always injured coming into camp.
If this is the same injury, like it's already been elongated, and I think your concern is valid in terms of that. I mean, if it's not the same injury, he's just been banged up for a whole calendar year. Basically.
I think when he got that shot that he blocked or something, it was a couple days before the break, and
that's right, and stood on the bench and didn't sit
I think
the whole game.
and I think in the I think it was the Vancouver game. Just like you just look at him after like a timeout or something, and he's always just like shaking something, and you're like,
I don't like that. Yeah,
it's not great.
Well, I like your guys' prediction. I think I'm right there with you. I think we see USA come out flying again. I think they get up to like a 2-goal lead, 2-0 even. But then I think it's all Canada from the second period on. I think if you read my article about McKinnon and Makar, I called some shots. I'll give them to you now. # bold prediction. Cale Makar is going to score the tying goal, and McKinnon's going to score the game winner. And I think the game winner comes from a Cale assist to McKinnon, and I think the Cale goal to tie comes on the power play. Those are my bold predictions this week. So we'll write that down later on. But folks, if you are watching right now, tune in the comments and let us know what you think the outcome will be for Team USA versus Team Canada.
I am surprised that neither of you picked USA. I'm a little surprised.
I'm with you, Jackie. I want Team USA to win, but I agree about the rematch. When someone plays someone this close and it's not a best of 7 series, usually the team who lost the first matchup has the advantage. And I feel that way about all sports. Like football, basketball, I think that's just human nature in a lot of ways. And you learn more from losing than you do from winning, just naturally, I think. So I think we'll see that come to the surface. And I think we'll see Canada hold kind of their cards close to the vest early, see if USA goes back out with the same stuff, even if it's successful. And then in the second and third period, we see those adjustments and that it's all Team Canada from there. As much as I don't want that to be the case, I'm USA, baby. Red, white, and blue. That's where I'm at. But I just, just being objective, that's just how I see it going down. But
I think the Charlie McAvoy injury is really going to hurt him. So, totally. And then losing Brady Tkachuk's not going to help either. But it's all 4 lines.
Yeah.
For Canada, you can't go out there. Canada's got something going on every shift.
The kicker and wild card in this is if they start Binnington, in my opinion, because he's
going on him.
Look good in moments, but I don't think he's that good. I don't honestly, guys. Like I'm gonna sound like an Avalanche homer because I am, but Binnington had like 8 good months in the NHL, and everybody acts like he's fucking Patrick Waugh. Pardon my French, but he's not that guy. In my opinion, that everyone chalked him up to be. Sure, he had a great year. Guys. He had a great year. but it's not the same as having a great career. And I think PK Subban calling, which we know Hellebuck can be leaky, but PK Subban calling Hellebuck leaky when Binnington is the Team Canada goalie, I think is kind of a weird flex.
Well, Subban's also a little bit biased, because he's from Ontario.
I don't really understand it either, because Binnington only played like one Worlds in the last few years, so it's not like he's been the Mr. Canada goalie. No. It is strange. It's obviously, I think, because Armstrong's on the Team Canada board or whatever it is, so there's some bias there, but that's going to be part of the funny thing if Canada wins, because it totally validates him,
which is annoying, but yeah,
then totally. Of course they're going to choose him for the Olympics,
because, the world champion goalie.
Exactly, they just won this tournament. Why would they make a change?
All right, that's it.
And it's not like you don't have a coach in Coach Coop that doesn't know how to make adjustments. He's been to 5 Stanley Cups and won 2 of them.
And he always has
in the last 10 years
that are hilarious. He sounds like a lawyer because he is.
Well, yeah, because he is.
Exactly. I know it's funny when I just saw the tweets. I didn't hear him myself, but I can't think of a reason why Kale wouldn't play. I could think of a few reasons. Like that was just the weirdest way to put that to me. It's like you can't think of a reason. I can think of reasons.
As an Avalanche writer fan, we can all think of reasons. It's just. It's like, come on, Coop. It's you got to use your lawyer brain here.
Look at this.
Chew on some more gum there.
Comment from Peterman that I love. So I'll set you up real quick, Peterman. Brandon, when you win a Super Bowl or a Stanley Cup and they say, "Where are you headed?" What do you usually say? I'm going to Disneyland, right? So Peterman says, "Hey Sid, you just scored the game-winning goal for Canada off to pass a good friend's NHL MVP Nate McKinnon. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to Denver to win another cup. Yay!"
Okay, we need to draw. We need to stop this whole Sid Crosby coming to
dare
Denver
you
thing.
Have you seen them playing together? How dare you? How dare you?
He's
let us live in this fantasy.
He's not going to leave Pittsburgh.
Okay, but until that's true, let us pretend. All right, come on, let's have some fun here.
Unless they're paying him $8.7 million.
Hey, there you go.
Like I said, the Avs have to get a little bit closer to being a top team. I think for him to
be like, do it.
And I don't think that's going to happen in the next 2 weeks.
Well, let's talk about our Avalanche. And folks, thank you so very much for tuning in today. We appreciate you. We have about 400 live viewers right now. Very cool on the eve of Team USA versus Canada. But this isn't a Colorado Avalanche podcast. And we've gotten off the rails in terms of that a little bit because of me and my excitement for the Four Nations. But let's reel it back in and let's talk about the Avs. Jackie, Brennan, you guys were both. Jackie, were you at the skate today?
No,
just Brennan. Okay, Brennan, you were at the skate today. At first, we saw Nichushkin out there, non-contact. He was with the team for a second, and then he ended up on his own sheet. Tell me what else you saw and what your assessment was of Nichushkin.
I obviously it's lower body, so he was kind of being ginger on when he was skating. So, it's obvious that he's going to need a few skates to come back. So, and that's what Bednar even said during the press conference from all the videos I've seen posted. So, I don't think we're going to get him back right away, to be honest. They've got 3 skates, I think, before the first game, or 2 skates. But I don't think we're going to get Nichushkin back right away, unfortunately.
All right. Well, that's not great news, but it is good news to see him skating again, I suppose, because we have only seen him basically from the neck up, or from the waist up, in terms of hockey gear. He was like walking around in shorts and chanclas is what we call them down here in Pueblo. So, but that's at least exciting that we saw the guys. The boys are back in town. Brandon, one last thing I'll ask you, because I don't think it's appropriate to ask Jackie. Not Blackwood. Was it Blackwood or was it Wedgwood who took
Wedgie
a puck to the Judeals today?
Yeah. So I'm not sure who took the shot, but he took a shot to the groin
Yeah.
and was in obvious pain despite wearing a cup and everything.
Yeah.
So it even worried Bednar, but once he found out that it was just the testicles.
Yeah.
That
He was relieved.
yeah, he was relieved, and I think we were all relieved when Wedgie came back out onto the ice because we were all worried that it was like a groin or a hip
Worse.
flexor or something like that because he was in some pain.
Yeah. I'm sure Wedgwood was like, I don't feel any relief at all, my friend. So
Oh yeah. I've taken some shots trying to block one, and
thank
things weren't arranged correctly, and yeah,
ouch.
it
Down.
hurt. It hurt despite the fact that I'm wearing a cup.
Yeah. Well, Jackie, I want your take on the Nichushkin potentially not returning right off the rip. Is that a concern for you? And based on what Brandon told you about his assessment of what he saw, what do you presume his timeline would potentially be? Because obviously you don't know.
I think it's always a concern. I mean, I think he's dealt with this since I think it was New Year's Eve he got hurt. I think the other concern is that twice they tried to rush him and it didn't go well. So I think knowing that they're going to have to be cautious, right? And I know we just had almost 2 weeks off and he wasn't able to skate with the full team. I guess we don't know if he periodically skated through the break or not. I know Bednar said that it's up in the air if he'll go on the trip or not. I guess combine that with what Brennan's saying, I probably say no. It's a back-to-back. I think both games are 4:00, so that's matinee-ish. There's not going to be a morning skate. It's probably going to be better if he just stays behind and rehabs. I've heard what his injury is. I can't remember who's exactly if it's public or not.
Gotcha.
So I'm not sure if I can say what it is, but
Okay.
it's definitely a concern of something that would linger.
Gotcha.
And so I guess I would say they have to be cautious. He had a setback twice.
Mhm.
You have to be cautious with it. So you just hope sooner than later. That's hard to really put your finger on, but if you just hope to continue to see improvement, it's more important that he plays later than right now, right? So
Yeah.
I think they need to get it right.
Totally. I that's a great way to put it. More important he plays later than right now. Jackie, are you concerned about Cale Makar returning? Obviously, you mentioned the Avs play Saturday and Sunday, 4:00, both back-to-backs. Do you think we see him or McKinnon or Tays, maybe all three, kind of take a couple days rather than go play in that, or do you think it's full steam ahead right off the rip?
I would expect all three to play. I guess we'll see, but especially if Cale's iffy, but I don't know. I kind of expect all three to play. And maybe that's why, the defense was up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of odd that they had McDonald and Amit there. I mean, are they expecting to really not have guys? I mean, they already said that Manson's not going to play. So that's another one. That was another, he'll be fine after the break. Yeah, right. Gerard needing a maintenance day after 2 weeks off. That one's a little funny too. But you can't just have AHL's players practice with you. Let's just put it that way. That's not the rule. I don't know if there's some sort of emergency, if they cried hardship to the league and said that as it stands now, we could only dress 4D. Can we get these AHLers? But they have a trip to take to go to Texas. So I don't think you can just have AHL players just hanging out. Like if they can get injured in practice, you can't. They have to be on NHL payroll too. Yep. So we'll see what comes up in the transactions. But I just want to say, you can't just randomly have AHL players show up. Like you're either on the team or you're not.
Totally. And
Yeah, so the Eagles play Friday against Texas in Texas. So
so that trip will happen sooner than the Avs trip, so we'll know pretty much.
Yeah,
who's
like if
sticking
they're
around.
there tomorrow, then that's
Well,
a little bit.
yeah, they could take the skate and then probably travel out because they travel commercially.
Yeah.
So the Eagles take I think it's Southwest or something like that. They all of them do, but it's they could do
Do they
the
still go the
skate.
day before? I know that
Mhm.
NHL is required to. I
Yeah,
was thinking about this earlier. Are they required to go the day before?
I believe so, but so they could just hitch a flight together, and it's not like they can't just drive out there together and then go themselves. But
I honestly am feeling like maybe Evan's onto something with the whole trade during the break thing, because if we see some numbers change in terms of contracts, that might explain, and one of these or two of these guys might stick around. Namely, when you say, "Oh yeah, Josh Manson is going to be healthy coming out of the break," and then he's not.
I mean, that's Manson.
Yeah,
that's Manson. I was going to say.
I know, but at the same time, you have.
I still don't know if
I don't know
call
if this is a great target, but you still have Seth Jones requesting a trade.
But that's a lot of money.
I think that's a terrible idea.
Sure, but I imagine that anyone willing to get Seth is going to require retention, or send a
for
contract
sure. Yeah,
the other way.
Well,
you know what
yeah,
I mean?
and like I think I even saw the part of the interview, part of an interview with Seth Jones. He's like, I understand that it's going to take a lot of money and a lot of
it's not like you're
space.
giving any back.
Well, yeah, he's even in the understanding that it's going to take
a lot of Chicago's
work.
money.
Yeah, it's going to take some work
Yeah.
and some arranging for
But it's
a
like
deal
there's
to get
nothing you
made.
could do about it.
Well,
I don't
yeah,
know if he
but
has trade protection. I mean, maybe he's saying I'll accept it, but
Interesting note from Vaguely says Chicago only has one retention slot left. One is all they need, baby.
yeah.
I don't see the excite. I don't know. I don't think he's all that good. I
do
mean,
they want to use it on Seth Jones and then make the original McKinnon draft pick come here? So
Yeah, I mean, I'm like Seth Jones is like, and Josh Manson are too similar. For me.
it's like for 5 or 6 more years. I can't remember. It's one of the two. 5 or 6 more years. Like that's a long time.
Yeah,
That's a
it's a
long
long
time to
time.
retain too. So
Mhm.
it's not just retaining for the rest of this year, maybe next year. Like that's a long time. That takes their retention spot. I don't get why they're so eager to move him. I mean, I know Chicago sucks, but they sucked when they signed him.
Yeah.
Like what are they getting out of it by moving him? I guess just to appease him, but it's like, well, this is what happens when you sign a deal like that. Like
Mhm.
you just kind of make your own
it's
bed
not
there.
like they built up around him. I mean, for God's sakes, they signed Tyler Bertuzzi.
Yeah, I like Tyler
he's
Bertuzzi.
probably one of the more
than-
talented
Yeah.
forwards they have.
Other than the time
Yeah.
he speared Calvert, I love that guy.
But my point is like that's their highly, other than Bedard, of course, that's one of their more higher talented players. It's like, come on, give me a break.
I think it comes back to Bedard because I think there's a contingency of hockey people and a concentration of those in Chicago who are of the opinion that Bedard can't stay in a rebuild this long. But I mean, Macklin Celebrini says hello. He'll probably be in one for the next 3 or 4 years as well.
Right.
So,
Well,
him and Askarov.
yeah.
I mean, San Jose has better young talent, but that needs to be realized.
Yep.
But what are you going to get back for Jones? Like, you're not going to get a real NHL player, like a good one.
No.
So how is that helping Bedard? It's not helping Bedard to get some futures, a couple draft picks. So
I call back
the
to
tough
the like.
thing.
Do I
call back
see
to the,
Amat going over there?
Wyatt Amat? Maybe.
I mean, they need more than that. Like you said, he's one of their actual somewhat
Talent.
decent NHL players. Why are you just getting rid of that, retaining for 5 years?
Yeah.
And what are you getting in return? So
the
it just doesn't
contract
make
through
any sense to
2030
me.
part. Yeah. I honestly feel like when you look at the 2030 thing, it's like he's more of a potential buyout than
Oh, for
anything
sure.
else.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't see how it makes sense for the Avs. I mean, would he be decent on the second pair? I guess, but then why are you paying $4.5 million or whatever it is for the next? It just doesn't make sense. You're gonna have to pay to get him. You're gonna, if you want that kind of retention, you have to pay for all those years too. So what? So you can just put him on the second pair and have him look like Josh Manson? Like, I don't. That's why I don't get what the point is. Like, if you just want Josh Manson, then get Josh Manson. I mean, if you're
Keep
gonna
him.
make a deal for somebody and retain, I would rather have Zadorov.
Yeah,
I know
baby.
he's signed for a long time, but it's not for $9 million, and he would look just fine on the second pair.
Are him
He's
and
Big Z,
McKinnon
baby.
going to get along?
Why wouldn't they? Like,
Yeah.
the whole
He's
The whole
McKinnon.
interview of like
no,
him.
I
you
don't
know,
think there's a problem with it.
I
He
bet you
just-
they texted about that and laughed
Yeah,
about it.
I don't see
Yeah.
any real problem with it. People don't get it. These Russian interviews, they're like an hour long. They're not like these North American US interviews where you talk to someone for 8 minutes, you get like 3 quotes out of it, and that's the interview. No, these
hey,
Russian
watch your
interviews
mouth.
are sit down. Well, you haven't posted an interview with Zadorov. They sit down, they're an hour long, and they go over so much stuff. And this
And
is
then
what
someone
happens.
translates.
And then someone translated because there's on YouTube, it's like an hour-long video, and this is what happened with Zadorov. Somebody like on a Flames message board just translated some general stuff because they were doing it for their fellow fans, which is normal. And somebody on Twitter screen capped the message board.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is what went viral. And it's like, has anybody even bothered to do their own translation? Has anybody even bothered to see what this entire conversation was about? No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just stupid. So I don't think there'd be any problem bringing Zadorov back. He's a great character. I think they would have fun. We need to have more fun and more character people. So anyway, do I think it's going to happen? No. But if we are willing to retain for years and years and years to get somebody to play as a number 4 defenseman,
That might be who.
I would rather have Zadorov than Seth Jones.
Can you believe Seth Jones's cap hit is $9.5 million, which is more than even Cale Makar?
Yeah,
That's
vaguely was
crazy.
saying that.
Yeah, vaguely. Oh yeah, look, he says, whoever signed him to that contract needs their head examined. Well, I think you're right, and there might be other reasons besides that.
But then it's
contract.
like, but then we want him.
Yeah,
We're pining for him.
yeah.
I don't get
yeah.
it.
I don't get it. I think it's just like kind of the whole. Even when you have something that you like, you see what's available, and you're like, oh, maybe. But I just don't. I don't see it. I don't see it happening for the Avs. I don't see it happening for Seth. I don't think anyone's going to trade for Seth Jones. And like I said,
I think they're trying to create a market. I think why they're talking about him so much is they're trying to
hard.
get interest.
Yeah.
Because I know that Chicago said that they were not getting much on Hall. I know there's like, what you could have got way more for him. They're like, really? No.
Mhm.
So I think they're trying to drum up interest for maybe the one movable asset they have.
Mm-hmm. Well, the NHL trade deadline is vastly approaching. Jackie, your favorite day of the year.
Oh my god, that's why I call it the dread line.
The
Trade
dread
dread line.
I'm still in that for the title of the episode.
You
The
should.
NHL trade dread line. So, I mean, let's see. That's March 7th today. It's going to be February 20th. So, I mean, we're right around the bend. So, I think
The
our next
19th, by the way.
episode, yeah, it's going to be.
It's
the
like
20th.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's like 2 weeks and 2
So-
days or something.
So we're gonna start our wheel of potential trade targets next week, Jackie. Hope you're ready for that. We'll spin the wheel. We'll land on some people, and basically we'll talk about why they won't get traded for by the Avs and who maybe they will, and then sometimes we'll land on people that the Avs are targeting. Last year we did it, and we landed on Casey Middlestat, and we talked about that before it happened. So let's hope.
I
that
remember we
happens one
landed
more
on
time.
Drouin. That's
We
the
all-
one I remember.
Yeah, that was, I think, we landed on Drouin, and we were all very excited about talking about that. And now, look, here we are. Jonathan Drouin and Nathan McKinnon are teammates, baby. That's almost as good as Sid and Sydney being here, right? I don't know.
Well, when he's healthy.
Well, let's wrap this thing up with our bold predictions real quick. We had some last week, and of course, folks, thank you so much for listening. Please head on over to Apple or Spotify or your preferred podcast platform. We have all 93. This is our 93rd episode, as well as some bonus episodes that were quick reactions to trades and signings.
We should do something special for 100. Just throw that out there.
We should absolutely do something special.
We need to do something special for 100, and maybe we should involve you guys that are listening too.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Let's do some brainstorming on that, Jackie.
Yeah.
Something fun. I like it. I like it a lot. Well, let's finish with our bold predictions. I will hash out what happened last week. Vaguely Sober, thank you for tuning in and commenting. Peterman, thank you. And thank you. If you have your bold predictions, put them in the comments now. We'll give you a shout. We'll write them down, and we'll circle back next week and give you your buzz or your ding. Ezra's not here today. We appreciate you, Ezra. We miss you, buddy. His bold prediction was Lehkonen has more points in the Four Nations than Rantanen. Unfortunately, even though he's not here, I'm going to have to give him a buzzer. Lecky and Rantanen both had a point. Rantanen had a goal. Lecky had an assist. Jackie, you had Canada versus Finland in the final. We know that that's not going to be true. Unfortunately, I was hopeful there as well. Adrian said William Nylander would have the first goal of the Four Nations tournament. Nope. And it was right there for me to pick Nathan McKinnon.
I know. I read that. I'm like, I can't believe you didn't pick McKinnon.
And Evan said that a trade will happen during this Four Nations break. I'm going to hold off on giving him a buzzer until
I was
going to
say how long do we define that though? Because
till tomorrow, basically, is what I'm thinking.
Okay, because the teams are back practicing. But okay, if it happens tomorrow, then okay.
Then we'll give him his ding. Brandon, you had Nathan McKinnon scoring 3 points in their first matchup against Sweden. He had 1. But it was the first goal of the Four Nations. And he also scored the game winner that got them into the finals. So that's pretty cool too. Which, as you guys heard earlier, I gave my bold prediction already, but I'll circle back to it. Let's run that track and think about our bold predictions this week.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I call that bold talk.
All right, Brendan, let's start with you. What do you got for me today, buddy?
Jacob McDonald makes his Avalanche debut again this Saturday.
McDonald back with the Avs, baby.
I hope so, because he has.
Would you rather see Amit at least to be an NHL debut?
Who?
Amit. Wouldn't you rather see him?
I would rather see both, but I think McDonald's going to be more likely.
Well, McDonald has played some games in the NHL for the Avs already, right? Because I feel like I really liked him. He's a Notre Dame guy, right?
Who?
Cornell.
McDonald?
I think he went to Cornell.
It's Cornell.
Cornell?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, him, Malinsky, and Steinberg.
So they all lost that year of development that you previously mentioned.
No, McDonald's was before.
Oh, he was
Super
graduated.
Old. He's
he's
over 30.
Yeah.
In hockey terms, he's super old.
Next time you guys interview him, make sure you mention that.
And I can say that I am
already,
actually old, so I can call someone super old that's in their 30s.
Well, I've already I asked McDonald about that, and he said that they've talked about like the traditions that still go on at Cornell, and compared like the traditions that happened when McDonald was there and what's still going on now. And Malinsky and Steinberg were actually roommates when they were, I think it was the last year or two that they were on the team. And so they've got a lot of stories that they razz each other with, and
nice.
There's a lot of Ivy League type stories that are when all three of them were on the Malinsky hadn't been down there all year, but Steinberg and him tend to razz each other a little bit.
Should we just be calling Malinsky Andy Bernard? Is that what I'm hearing right now? I think that's what I'm hearing right now. The big red bear.
Yeah.
But next time he scores a goal, I'm just hitting the rid-it-do.
Yeah, that or yell, "Hey, tuna."
Yeah, exactly. All right, Jackie, what's your bold prediction this week?
Is it a super layup just to say McKinnon scores the golden goal?
No, I
That
don't
like
think
too
so.
easy?
I don't think so.
I
There's
might.
plenty of
I
talent
just kind of have
otherwise.
to take it, right?
Yeah.
Like the one that always I think I'm gonna keep letting it ride is Malinsky has to score a goal.
Yeah.
I guess until he gets traded.
Yeah.
But he has to score a goal. So, but officially for this week, we have to say McKinnon scores the golden goal, right?
Yep.
Just too
Yeah.
easy.
Too easy. And that's pretty much mine as well. But
Okay, well then you can have that, and I can use the Malinsky one.
Well,
It's fine.
what
That
I'll
was
do
gonna be
ins-
your pick.
what I'll do instead is we'll both celebrate that ding if you get it, and mine will be that Makar's going to score the game tying goal, and that Canada will be behind.
I feel like for Makar hasn't quite found his footing in like a composite team yet. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a good pick. I mean, that'd be awesome.
I
Just
agree with
we
you,
didn't really
actually, yeah.
talk about it. I still feel like he doesn't quite know how aggressive to be, or
Mhm.
he's confident. He knows that he's damn good, but he's got to he thinks about it a lot. I think he's got to kind of really feel how he fits in and it to be aggressive like that. But obviously the talent, he can always shoot and score, and you never know. But
That's what I'm leaning on because when the Avs are desperate for a power play goal and everything's not working.
oh yeah, he can visibly turn it up. That's one of the things that there's a lot of things to love about his game, but I think you really, really see it live is that
Mhm.
he just he's one of those guys that can find that gear, that can
Yeah.
actually take it to another level and just really like force something to happen. I don't know if he's quite done that yet on a team like this, but the
Fair.
talent will always show up. So,
Mhm.
but I just wanted to, as an aside, kind of discuss his fit on this team.
Yeah, let's do it because I was about to make a little quip because I'm curious about those with and without McKinnon numbers for everyone else now. Now that we see these superstars playing with him on Team Canada, let's get some metrics from JFresh and see about those with McKinnon numbers and see how these really good guys like McDavid are with and without McKinnon or Crosby, But that's just my 2 cents. But I've noticed with Cale Makar, what you're talking about too, Jackie, like I've seen moments where he's like almost a victim of the system being different in Canada than it is in Colorado, where in Colorado it's like, Hale, jump into the play, like whenever.
Yeah, like he can do whatever he wants. Exactly. I think he's trying to find that, like, where can I be aggressive? How do I do it on a team like this or in a different system?
Mm-hmm.
So I think as his international career goes on, he'll find it more and more. But I do think like someone like McKinnon's a little bit more like in the zone to make something happen.
Yeah.
Well, that and he's used to playing with the Avalanche, who have 2.5 lines, maybe.
Yeah.
And I mean,
that's a great way to put it.
All right, let's be honest there. And then where Canada they're rolling 4 lines, just constant.
Yeah.
4 lines,
and changing up lines.
And and you can just take a piece and put it here, put it there, put it there, put it there. I mean, in a way, I feel bad for Coach Coop because he's got too much to work with. And then I feel bad for Coach Bednar because he doesn't have enough to work with.
Yeah. Well, sidebar, back to bold predictions. I just thought of a funny one. If Team USA wins, I bet Connor McDavid is still named the MVP.
Oh my God, that's
great.
Oh my goodness, that's a great one. That'd be like the Cup Finals all over again.
Yeah,
and then he doesn't come out and get it.
Exactly.
Does he have enough production to really justify that choice at this point?
I don't know.
Over everybody, I mean, like over Crosby, like he's been involved in almost like every single goal Canada scored.
To his credit, the numbers were there last year in the final.
Sure.
But yeah, I think in this situation, maybe they're not so much. And so if it happens again, I mean, I have no choice but
I feel like Sid is overshadowed. overshadowing even McDavid in this, but nothing, absolutely nothing shocks me when it comes
Okay.
to media and McDavid. Nothing.
So Sidney Crosby has 1 goal, 4 points, or 4 assists, so 5 points, and he's +2, and he only has two penalty minutes, and he's got a shooting percentage of 50%.
Wow.
Well, then he needs to shoot more.
And he's right, and he's got a face-off percentage of 50%. Let's see now, McDavid, way down there. Give me a second.
That's a lot of scrolling, Oiler fans. That's a lot of
Well, he's not in the
scrolling.
top 10. I'll tell you that.
Well, they would say if McKinnon would only
Oh,
pass
no, he's
him,
top
he'd
5.
have like 5
Okay.
goals.
You
Yeah,
scroll
so-
too much.
So he's he got 2 goals, 2 assists. He's -1. He has a 28.6 shooting percentage, and he has won 66.7% of his faceoffs.
Should also shoot more.
Yeah. Well, okay. Crosby only has 2 shots on goal, where McDavid has 7.
Well, this is actually something that I do want to talk about that we didn't talk about, which is the narrative that followed the Avs' first game about Nathan McKinnon from Canada, which was Nathan McKinnon needs to pass more when McDavid's on. the ice.
shoot less and not shoot.
Shoot less.
Oh my
McKinnon.
God! Don't get me going.
Now, folks, if you are tuned in and you're not an Avalanche fan, you don't understand how stupid that sounds to us, because for maybe a year and a half, we've been screaming at Nathan McKinnon to shoot the puck more.
Well,
And so-
especially early in the season, he
Yeah.
wasn't, and people were all like, "Oh, it's not a big deal." And it's like, but this is what Nathan McKinnon is. Like, if someone
Volume.
else isn't shooting, it's like okay, whatever. But if Nathan McKinnon isn't shooting, there has to be like a reason.
Mhm. Exactly. And it's effing Nathan McKinnon, guys. No one on the top 6 of Team Canada should be passing up grade A chances. And if you
Especially to McKinnon.
Yeah, and the sentiment came after the overtime period, where McKinnon on numerous occasions at the end of a long shift single-handedly broke into the zone and created a chance for himself. If he scores a goal on any of those coast-to-coast attempts, Canada is on fire talking about how much they love Nathan McKinnon. But
What-
instead, that's what we came to, because he didn't score the game winner. It was Marner on a great feed from Crosby.
Right, with a muffin, by the way.
Yeah.
And then McKinnon is ranked 7th of all skaters in the tournament with 3 points. That's 3 goals, no assists, +4. One of those is a power play goal. One of those is a game-winning goal. He has 10 shots on net with a shooting percentage of 30% and a face-off percentage of 56.3.
Wow.
Well, you know what
I'd
else
say
is
those are
cra-
pretty stellar, but
Yeah.
whatever. If you're
You know
going
what
to
is
complain
crazy
about
though?
those,
Without looking it up, who leads the Avs in goals?
who
without
leads
looking it up.
Avs in goals?
Yes.
Okay, well that's a different.
Is it
site.
still Mikko Rantanen?
Well, yeah,
Probably.
but okay. Even if we take him off the list, who leads the Avs in goals? Don't look it up.
Oh, is it? Oh, wow.
Don't tell me it's Colton.
Is it Ross
It is
Colton?
not. It is not.
Is it Arturi
She's
Lexington?
got it up in front of her. That's why.
It is Lehkonen. No, I don't have
Okay.
it up in front of me, but I heard this the other day. It's
It's Lehkonen.
Lehkonen. You know who's number 2?
Oh, that's yeah. Okay.
Who's number 2?
I would be willing to guess. Let's see who's on power play 1. Is it Kale? Because Kale's got
Yes.
20. Yeah.
Yes. So McKinnon is 3rd on the team right now. Even if you take Rantanen,
Yeah,
off,
Rantanen's first, by the way.
Yeah.
3rd on the team in goals. That just surprised me. I'm not saying that to disparage him, because obviously we know he's leading the league in
NHL.
points.
Yeah. And
But-
assists, by the way.
But
By
it's
the way.
just funny to say that, you know, he's had to play differently, I think, for the Avs. And then on Canada, I do think maybe he is looking to shoot more. And it's such a small sample size, it could just be the way it happened. But you know,
if you
that's
have
another
3 goals in 3 games, I think shooting is a good thing.
Well,
Yes.
you know who leads the league in shots on goal right now? is Brady Kachuk.
Brady Kachuk. Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually,
234.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah, and Pasternak is 230, and then McKinnon is 227.
yes. And
Those are your
Matthews,
top three.
Matthews is up there in terms of shots per game too. Like his is like 4 a game on net. So, I mean, hell, Zach Rowensky is up there in terms of shots per game.
He is fifth with 203.
So it's like-
Matthews isn't even in the top 5 or top 10.
For being Canadian, you certainly don't understand the most famous quote in hockey history, which is, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." And I don't know if you know who said that, but his name is Wayne Gretzky. He wore number 97, 99. And, it's just, it's silly to me. So
yeah, keep shooting. It's a good thing. But also, these narratives to pit superstars against each other, I don't have time for it. I have to fight enough stupid Avs narratives on their own. I'm not even getting into it.
I got called a gatekeeper for saying that Nathan McKinnon should keep shooting. And who called me that will go unnamed, although I'll tell you guys after the show and you'll laugh about it. But there are 820 of you tuned in to us live right now. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you. Yeah.
We've gone about 15 minutes over, but it's because the topics just keep coming up in my mind. And so here we are. But
Did we get Brennan's bold prediction?
Yeah, he had McDonald coming up and playing.
Oh, that's right. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure we got everybody.
Yeah. So, folks, thank you so very much for tuning in. If you enjoy this programming, please like, subscribe, and share with your fellow hockey and Avalanche fans. Please head on over to the website, milehighhockey.com. We have all of our written material over there, previews, recaps, opinion pieces. We've even done previews and recaps for all of the Four Nations games, to include one that will come out tomorrow for the final between USA and Canada that is set to air at 6 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And we've got some bold predictions to see about in that final game. And of course, Brandon, we'll find out about yours as the Avs come back to action, which will be Saturday and Sunday, both 4:00 games on the road, a back-to-back situation for the Avalanche. Hopefully we see 2 different goalies. Maybe we'll just see, Mackenzie Blackwood.
It depends on how Wedgie's jewels are.
Yeah, exactly. I think he'll be all right. But yes, Manson's likely out. Nichushkin's still likely out. So we'll see how the dust settles on this Four Nations tournament, and we will get right back into the swing of things with the Colorado Avalanche, who have about 2 weeks to the deadline. So be on the lookout for our deadline content coming your way very soon.
I do have a bingo card.
Yes.
Card 3.0 coming. I do have it coming. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, that's okay.
I do want to tease that. I'll put it out probably like at least a week before the deadline, because we know the Avs like to do their shopping early, and I don't want to leave that on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
So,
well, tell me just
forward.
a few of them. What's on your bingo board, if you can recall?
I don't know if I want to give away, because it's definitely like themed. Let's just say I mentioned one person.
Okay.
Zadorov. I
Gotcha.
will say.
Okay. Like it.
I'll
like
say
it. I like it a lot.
He's on the bingo card. So
okay.
Yeah, because we want more of Scheifele getting nailed.
I promise Crosby's on that card too. But
okay.
That's an awesome tease right there. I'm really looking forward to that. I will print it out as the deadline approaches. We'll probably do, I don't know if we'll do like the whole day like we've done in the past, but we will do kind of like a couple hours, I think, on deadline day, just to
I think that'll be fine.
Yeah, just to be there in case the Avs do anything crazy, or in the event that they do absolutely nothing, and we can talk about what the roster is going to look like going.
And we can talk about Hurdle getting traded for like a 3rd-round pick again. Whenever something like that goes down.
Yeah, totally. Well, folks, thank you so very much for tuning in. Please give us a follow on your preferred social media platform. You can see above me if you're watching. That's at all caps MHH_lab on Twitter, and at Mile High Hockey on X as well. And of course, I think Jackie, Brennan, we're all on Blue Sky if you want to follow over there. And check it out as well. So we appreciate you folks. Man, I just don't want to sign off because there's like 900 of you now. What's going on? But we appreciate all of you folks. Until next time, which will probably be around this day next week, Wednesday or Thursday. We'll see how it goes. We love you, Avs fans. And until then, go Avs.
Thank you for tuning into the Mile High Hockey Lab.